back with his lovely wife Sharon. He has been creating art through photography for over 50 years. In recent years, his fine homeless men gallery in Carmel, California, not an unimportant milestone for him. And also at the Art Intersection Gallery in Gilbert, Arizona, and many other locations in the Monterey Bay area. Another exhibit, transcendent landscapes, is hanging in the sanctuary of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Monterey Peninsula. UCMP is its fond abbreviation. I've seen that. I've done some stuff down there at that church, and it's a gorgeous exhibit. And then he's got his portfolios hanging in the lobby and hallways of multiple office buildings in Pacific Grove. So he's definitely serious about all this stuff. He began shooting photographs in 1965 while serving in the U.S. Army in Vietnam and hasn't put the camera down since. He's an active member of Imagemakers Monterey for 15 years and chairs the governance committee of the board of directors of the Center for Photographic Art in Carmel. And he has a 50-year career as a management consultant, working for KPMG, Ernst & Young, and Deloitte before running his own corporation, Sadler Consulting. So he lives in Pacific Grove. He and Sharon have just made an amazing, impressive move from a home of 25 years there in Pacific Grove to an apartment in a senior complex right on the coast with, I understand, a gorgeous view from the fourth floor of the entire Carmel coast or Pacific Grove coastline. So I'm delighted to welcome him back to Kodak. He's done multiple talks for us, as well as a workshop, a couple multi-day workshop, and all of them got rave reviews. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from him.
It's wonderful to be here and see you all again. Really enjoyed my visits, and several of you come down to Imagemakers every month, and love seeing you there. So I'm delighted to be back. The last 2 years has been gruesome in terms of being able to be face to face. So this is wonderful. I plan to talk about two things that I'm very excited about. As many of you know, I'm as interested in the people who take photographs and what they personally bring to the photograph as I am the image itself. And constantly thinking about how when we hit that release, all of our DNA and all of our life experience somehow wells up and guides us to how we frame, what we focus on, what our subject is, where we come to take the photograph. All of that is so unique to each individual. And the last year, I spent more time with some and thinking about what did that do for me to take that picture, and started putting it in words and writing as much. And so once I start writing and I get an idea, I would be, I don't like to sit still, but I just started writing. So I got excited about that, the combination of images and words as a reflection of something that matters, a moment that matters in your life. And so what I want to do tonight is share 6 of those, which will take about half the time. And then I want to talk about the other thing I'm really excited about, and that is using artificial intelligence to create imagery. I know it's controversial, but I'm doing it. And so I'm excited about it, and I'm going to show it. You can get mad at me if you want. Don't call 60 minutes. So let me start with one of the reflections. It's called turning. 15 years ago, I was standing on the rocks near Asilomar quietly considering the flat ocean and the gray light with the camera in my hand. I was weak from chemo, radiation, and surgery that was an all-out attack on esophageal cancer. Photography along the ocean was the only activity that compelled me to get up and walk. My heart really wasn't in it. The skies were this marine gray, and so was my outlook. I was cancer-free for the moment, but I was facing 10 years of waiting and watching for a recurrence. I was distracted by this great white egret that was standing on the kelp about 200 yards out in the rocks there. And he lifted up and began flying right toward me. I had about figured 30 seconds to set my camera in case he came close, because that white was going to be too much for the settings I had. And so I quickly made the setting, but I didn't move very much. He came right straight at me. It's as if he wanted the same rock that I was standing. And when he got to be 20 feet away, I raised my camera and he was startled and made a quick turn. The sound of the shutter release was muffled by the rush of air under his wings. When I processed the image later, I was really disappointed. Everything was just a dull gray. It was no depth, no contrast. It was just awful. Gone was the brilliance of an angel. Gone was the sense of a visitation from some spiritual world. Gone was the rush of air from the wings. I almost tossed it up. But about a week later, when Nick arrived and I plugged it into my laptop, I was looking for a picture to try on, and I put that picture in there. And it gave me presets endlessly on the left-hand side of the page, and I was thumbing through it and converted to black and white, and all of a sudden, it was there. The image that I experienced was now on the page. Did I create it? Well, not really. Nick created it. But I was smart enough to know that was the image. And it was a collaboration between me and technology. If I were to sign it, I should say me and Nick. So more. Step by step, the spirit of this animal came alive. I saw the depth, brilliance, and the spirit emerging. I could hear the rush of air from the sudden turn again. Transformational moment in my life. Preserved. This one's called gliding. I heard her approach from behind. The sound of the soft mist lifting her body as massive wings slowly pushing. We're just a little above cresting point. I was facing the ocean, which is the wrong direction, looking for her in the gray tide pool, waiting for another visitation from this creature who had the power to take my breath. I whirled around, and even in the dim dawn, her snowy prowess lit me up and warmed my damp face. Through a 200 millimeter piece of glass, I met her discerning eye, and we danced until I matched her passing speed. And when I released the shutter, we became one. This is called engaging. In 2013, I began taking portraits of homeless men in Monterey County in cooperation with Interfaith Homeless Emergency Shelter Program. And it was my fourth time being there at a dinner at the church with them. I've been coming monthly to make portraits of anybody who volunteered. And I have done about 10 images and given them. It was a good way to banter with those I'd already worked with and introduce the project to others, get some more volunteers. And I hadn't met the man who was in front of me in the bread line. And just as I approached him, he spun around. And he said, "So you're the photographer?" And because of his tone, I tentatively stammered, "Yeah." Again, aggressively. "You know what they're saying about you, don't you?" "No, what are they saying about me?" So they're saying it's good luck to have a portrait taken by you. Really? Why is that? Well, didn't you notice? Notice what? That 6 of the first 10 people you shot have found a job and a place to live. They're not in the program anymore. I looked around and sure enough, I didn't see a few familiar faces. But I immediately felt trapped. If these men think they found jobs in housing because I took a picture of them, that's too much responsibility. That's not going to happen. I can't let myself be in that place. I said, no, that's just a coincidence. He said, "No, it's not a coincidence." Well, I said, "Are they using the portraits to apply for jobs and housing?" He said, "No, that's not it either." Now he changed his look and got a different tone. And I realized it had been mock anger. "Well," I said, "you seem to know what's going on. What do you think?" And he paused for a moment and he said, "You know, that museum quality print that you give them, it has an impact. When they get into their sleeping bags at night," he said, "they put that picture under their pillow. And when they wake up, they look at the picture rather than look in the mirror. And they say, 'Hey, you're a good looking guy. You deserve a job. You deserve a place to live.' And with that new attitude, they go out and get a job. 6 out of 10. That's 3 times the normal recovery. And that's why I want you to take my picture tonight." I was stunned. I said, "Yeah, sure." But I was still trying to absorb this profound and beautifully articulated wisdom from a man I had clearly stereotyped. I expected nothing from him. And in less than a minute, got a breathtaking aha. A portrait that sees past the mask and toward some more affectionate facet of the soul is universally inspiring. Self-esteem goes up. I wouldn't try to prove cause and effect, but the eye health monitor says that over 50% of the 150 men I've photographed have recovered over the past 10 years, 3 times the normal rate. This is a picture of Carlos that I made for him that night. Sure enough, he had an income and a place to live 2 weeks later. This is called anticipating. There's this Watsonville red barn and cypress trees that are an iconic arrangement that made me want to stop every time I've driven by for the last 20 years. Happened again tonight coming here. My impulse to stop was always quieted by the fact that Route 1 in that area is a 2-lane road with a lot of traffic whooshing by 50 miles an hour, and there's no safe place to pull over. So I always resist. One day, I was driving here to Kodak to a workshop, and as I was coming up Route 1, it was huge rainstorms, and a rainbow appeared over Route 1 as I was driving. And it was just a wow. I wanted to stop, but I wasn't really moved to do that. I just enjoyed it. And as I was getting closer to Watsonville, the thing just stayed with me over the highway. I began to think, I wonder if by the time I get to the barn, that rainbow will still be there. Because if it is, I'm stuck. And as I drove, it stayed with me. And then I started lining it up. I was going 50 miles an hour, but I was watching that rainbow. And the end of the rainbow was moving over. And as soon as it got over the barn, I stopped, pulled over. And because I wanted to be safe, I pulled it into the mud, which was the farmer's. We got out and got the fish. I was a little late to the workshop, and I was covered with mud below my knees, but I had my opening remarks. Photography, I said that day, is transformative. I imagine cameras not so much as technical equipment, but more as the liquid that Shakespeare's mischievous Puck carries with him in Midsummer Night's Dream. And Puck sprinkles that liquid on the eyelids of sleeping people, and when they wake up, they fall in love with the first thing they see. When I left the house this morning, my eyes were sleepy. Along the road, I stopped, lifted the camera to my eye, and immediately fell in love with a barn. I'm not certain who said it first, but I heard George Carlin once say that life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, by the moments that take our breath away. I agree. This is reflecting. Take two careful steps down that eroded stairway from the dusty parking lot along Carmel Valley Road until you reach the Carmel River in Garland Park. As you cross the pedestrian bridge, pause and look for trout swirling around blue-green gems that catch the dappled sunlight below. Rejoice with the two Irish setters that bolt from their owner's heel and crash into the river for a sloppy drink, and revel with them until they exit and shake backlit droplets off their red coat. And then when all goes quiet and the still river mirrors the golden December leaves, you'll notice that you've crossed into another journey. Your stomach will regain control of your breath, and your shoulders will drop down from their protective perch around your neck. And once again, embrace your arm. You will hear yourself take a breath. After another breath, a great blue heron steps off the bank and waits for a glimpse of a passing fish. He stumbles on the slippery stones. Okay, so this one's called Transforming. A great blue heron owns this lagoon deep in the heart of Big Sur. I'm usually there by myself, but I'm going to tell you where it is. It's not far away. Please don't tell anyone else, because there's no infrastructure and you can't support tour buses. Just head south on Route 1 about 10 miles past Crossroads Shopping Center. Look on the right for a knoll with a mischievous trio of Himalayan birches that blush in the early morning sunlight, and turn right on the next dirt road. With the sun warming the back of your head, you should see my tire tracks in the dusty road ahead. It makes a big S-curve into the fog-covered maritime hills ahead. Just travel down that road for about 60 years. I know, it seems like a long time, but believe me, it goes by like that. If you take the second Albany 8x10 view camera, that will take 10 years to learn. You'll get to mistakes, but it's a joy, and you'll be outside. That helps you understand, and it will change the way you experience the world forever. It gives a sage that rises from the oceans. To learn how to inhale an image before you see it. At some point, you'll come to a stream that glimmers with more than its share of sunny jewelry. The road disappears into the stream and rises again on the other side. As you drive through the crystal water, you'll notice your camera morphs to a smaller, lighter, medium format camera. You can move more freely and still get sharp and deep images. It takes another 2 decades, but you will learn to make those dials go to the right place without looking. As night falls, you'll be so overwhelmed by the reflection of even minuscule stars in roadside puddles that you will miss the black and blue silhouettes of stately redwoods, and the ridges that engulf you. You'll begin to realize, frustrated, you'll pick up a paintbrush and try to capture the figurative essence of the place with abstract flourishes of color and breathe. When dawn breaks, you'll see a fork in the road, and you'll try watercolor on paper. You'll learn to blend color and paint in layers. You'll like the ability through the painting. The road to Blue Heron Cove. The road ends at Blue Heron Cove, where you enter an imaginative world that works along you to paint with these fluids. You'll look back at thousands of photographs and see colors and textures and forms that can be layered and blended into images that you have imagined. It will take another decade. But here at Blue Heron Cove, you can create and share even the most subtle. So what's happened? We've gone from analog photography, digital photography, to digital plus Photoshop, Photoshop plus plugins, topaz, and using all that stuff and learning to use all that stuff is wonderful. And when I look back at my work, I moved from the literal image, the figurative image, to what looks much more like painting and what actually feels more like painting. And then one day I wake up and I look at the New York Times last September and I see that some guy won a photo contest in Oklahoma in the digital image category, and he used AI.
Yeah.
And all hell broke loose. But I had to say, well, wait a minute, I like that image. I don't know how he got it. What did he do? And I did a little research and it used Midjourney on my screen and put in a command saying, you know, I love the spirit, the spiritual feeling that waves give me. Can we create a picture of the spirit of the waves? And I was just hooked immediately. I loved it. That's not what came out of Midjourney. It was one of 20 things that came out of Midjourney that are similar. I picked the one I want, I changed the color, I took 2 or 3 of them, I blended them. I did all the things I would do with photographs, except I was using something that was created by a prompt that I gave it. And it said, well, okay. Yeah, I also like the spirit of trees. I love trees. Kevin Osborne should be here. With his love of trees, I have the same love of trees. What would the metamorphosis of a tree look like? You turn it into a spirit. And once again, it just conjured up something that I absolutely loved. Where's the photography? It's in there somewhere because Midjourney didn't take this all, didn't learn all this from nothing. I learned all this from every photograph we ever put on the web. But it didn't copy what we put on the web. It learned from what we put on the web. And it's sitting by my side as an assistant that never gets tired and does what I say. I'm still the editor. These are still my images. I have the rights. They're not copies of anybody else's photographs. The computer learned the same way I learned, by looking at images for 50 years, studying every bit of art I could study, and then conjuring up what I wanted. And now it's actually a machine learning tool. And then I started thinking about themes that I loved, pictures that I never got to take, things that I saw that I didn't have a camera for, that are still very much in my mind. 3 friends on the Mediterranean fishing. And then I went places I never went, but always wanted to go. And with the writing skill that I've picked up, I can type very good prompts. Ten orchids. Who tends those orchids? Somebody does. But we love Paris. Sharon and I can't get enough of Paris. There are a lot of just combined. I did not girl and have to see the face. I can read it. Sharon's ancestors founded the town of Weathersfield. We went there last year to see what her great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents did when they came from England, landed in the colonies, and they ran a feed store, and that's the feed store in that hill there. And then I love water, sailing, passing storms. It's not hard to conjure up something that I absolutely love. These don't come out of maturity with very high resolution, but with tools you can get this picture up on canvas 4 feet by 5 feet. So I haven't picked up a camera in 6 months, and I've never been. Every one of these is one of a series of 10 or 20. Portfolios, all made from my breakfast table before I got it. So we are in a different world. I don't know what's going to happen. I know the reaction is huge, especially to the writing. But we put it together extraordinarily powerful. It can be used for good, it can be used for ill. There are no rules. And that's where we are. So I have no answers, but I know what I'm going to do. Going quiet here, I don't know. Let me just stop there, and I don't know how many minutes you'll have to.
I think we have lots of time.
Give me the-
But let me first of all, thank you. So, questions, comments?
I just wanted to say that you were thinking about AI very kindly because you probably listen to KZU and KZU has been having several discussions about AI. And recently they, someone who has proposed that there be a moratorium on because we don't know where it's going and we don't know how potentially destructive it was or is. And so anyway, that discussion, if you go to the NPR page, you might be able to find it. And, it's AI photography. I'm not going to express my opinion. I think the images are beautiful. I think that I hope this does not become a it's something else.
I completely and CPA. Not because I love it, I just think it's a new art form.
Yeah,
It's gonna need a new venue.
it's not, yeah. Anyway, if you get to look it up, there's a lot of.
Oh, I know, there's at least 3 things today, Comment for Today was yesterday's show. It was all about that, and she was enraged. And the guy who, one of the big inventors of this at Google has resigned.
Right.
Well,
They're comparing it to the beginning of the atomic age.
Exactly.
They're comparing it to it.
It feels that way, I agree. And I know that people will take any tool and do something bad with it. So, use it. I want to create beautiful things with it. And then what do you tell me?
I have a comment. First of all, your writing and your images are very inspiring. Really enjoy it. But my comment is seeing your images and some of your other images being presented before. I think it's, as interested and beautiful as these AI images are, I think it's a shame if you stop using your camera.
Sure, I won't. But I have to tell you, I haven't picked it up, to be honest, in 6 months. So one of these days, I'm sure I'll grab it. But boy, I've got a lot of work to do. in the back.
Available. Your beginning images of the egret. I don't think I've seen an egret as quite a. Then the. Talking about decades of the evolution of an artist is really what it is. And we can't stop progression of where image making like feelings and stuff about image creation. It will proceed in its way, and to enjoy it and use it, embrace it for what you want to. Each artist gets to choose that, and I just think it's lovely and brave, and that you have done it.
Could you see in the slideshow when I switched from photography to AI? And I don't think it's that hard. And those were early versions. Most of those are version 3. We're now on version 5. Version 5 is twice as fast and twice as slow.
There seems to be a continuum there. Describe the image, like Photoshop, don't have plugins, but this is right here. At that point, you can be very similar to the image. Those are plugins to get there. Is a continuum broken? Shouldn't be with other stuff.
Well, I went back to the one of the herons and I said, I created that with Nick, right?
Right.
Wasn't exactly AI, but
Just technology, right?
I was presented this image. Well, not this exactly, because what I added to it was subtracting the dark above the egret. Sense of place down below. That's my addition, but this is not me by myself. This is me in a machine. And when you get to some of these later images, like this is 7 images blended and hand painted with, not hand painted, but digitally painted. I changed colors. This is not there was a photograph, there were 7 photographs here. Then I go, well, what difference does it make? Where I got how I got there.
Well, that's my question. Like, I think AI should be part of our image. If one of us here at Kodak use lots of plugins, and it like at some point
And apps.
and yeah, and so like how many plugins can you use before you cross that line?
That's my problem. I can't discern.
Yeah.
The discussion me discussions that I heard in the very early days of digital. God, I hope you don't give up on your film camera. And now here we are using digital cameras. And the other thing is that we are we are not a photographic, although most of us do photography. We've got a couple of members that do absolutely beautiful work that isn't traditional photography. So why wouldn't we include AI generated images?
Yeah, I have to say, as smart as all the plugins are, they're nowhere near as smart as an AI is. I mean, there is, I don't know, creation, because it's borrowed information, but wow, it's a different thing. Maybe it's a threshold of control. Now, I still have a lot. Yeah. So I think it's a big puzzle that we have not sorted out. I don't think any government is good enough to stop it. Because you have to have all governments in the world stop it simultaneously. You're not going to be able to do it. It will go on the black market. So I would rather understand it, use it for good, sort of like Facebook. You know, it can be used for good or ill. I'm not going to let the bad guys have it.
It's just another form of art.
Yeah.
You know, just like, you know, I don't pick up a paintbrush and paint on canvas because, you know, that's not my store area of film. But people who do that create wonderful art. This is just another. It shouldn't be put in the same category as a photograph, just like something like this that's been manipulated with many layers shouldn't go into the same category as a photograph.
Well, images.
But it's another image and it's another way of producing art.
AI, he took this image and he ran it against an AI. And so this is where it transitions. Up to now, I went to this one, and he put them on the screen side by side and said to the audience, which was about 50 people, which is photography and which is AI, and half the people got film. It's going to be hard to know. And then this one is mostly AI, but the heron is. There is a photograph in this one. Maybe this qualifies for everything. But I love the whole thing. And it doesn't exist except in my imagination. So I probably eat up all the time. And one more. we had a workshop. She was constantly, wait a minute.
Really, business of words and images, giving the content that of course really makes it much deeper. To switch gears completely, I don't know anything about other things and so forth. What I noticed is that the style was extremely consistent from where you started to this one. And I wonder, what is it that determines the style? And also before that, I mean, anyway, the point is that there are stylistic consistencies and taste that I'd like to know where they come from and whether you, anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what I mentioned earlier is I think when we make an image, it's highly personal. It's a welling up of all my DNA, all my life experience. And that's what I produce. And if I produce it without strength, just what do I like? This is what I'm. If I go to a museum, I'm going to go to the impressionistic painting area. I'll look at everything else, but this is where I'm really drawn. And so when I make an image, I'm going to go there. Even if I'm a photographer, I'm going to find all those textures and I'm going to build them in. And I'm going to make it look like an impressionist painting before, if I know how to do it. In the early days, like for the heron, black and white herons, I was still just trying to like cancel out. That's what I love and knew how to do. But the more I learned, the more I shifted to who I am.
So do you tell AI to do it in the style of the impressionist, the way you say?
Yeah, you can.
So
I can say, but,
that's the
and I've done it because I want, and I don't like that idea, but to see what happens. And what it doesn't really look like Monet, but it's probably Monet's standard color palette. And you can't copy his texture on a screen, so you're not going to get that. And if I showed it to you, you wouldn't say, well, that's a Monet, but it definitely is in the direction of something like that.
And what did you tell it to this way?
I said, a big surf, rocky lagoon, early morning, cypress trees, a rough water, full color, John Sargent, Hudson School.
Okay, that's the John Sargent.
That was in my work. Now, John Sargent would not say that's one of his, nor would anybody who loved painting think that's John Sargent. But that's what I said. And I think it sort of got the drama of, and then I said cinematic. And that's how, and it was there with I had to take that out. I took another picture, superimposed it that had no great blue heron, and then I took my great blue heron and put it.
But it draws on anything, not just your.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely just.
But I could take have taken this photograph and fed it in as part of the prompt. More control.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're about to switch to sharing.